G'day folks, you're with 7P Overland, and despite having a good old Aussie truck with us, we're in the mountains of Colorado. I'm Nick.
I'm Graham, and I got the Troopy stuck coming up this little incline here, and we're going to show you how we're going to get it out using a winch.
Before we do any type of recovery, we want to have a look at the vehicle and where we're going to actually attach that recovery equipment to. Most 4x4 off-road vehicles have attachment points to the bumper or to the frame, but we're going to have a look under Graham's truck to see what he's got hidden away under there.
Well, the bull bar itself is attached to the frame with some really high quality grade 8 and grade 10 bolts. The recovery points that they put on the front of this truck are a bit strange. As you can see, it's just 1/8" steel plate here. So on a straight line pull, it would probably be okay. If you put any sort of a side load on these, they bend very, very quickly. So instead of using these guys, we're actually going to use the Toyota recovery points. We can use either one on either side. And as you can see, these are directly onto the frame. Definitely frame mounted recovery points. That's where we want to be. Nice to have your 90 here with the winch so that we can pull the truck out. Why'd you park all the way back up here though?
Well, I like to make sure we've got a good couple of car legs at the very least here. Firstly, to get your vehicle onto the straight and level where it's going to be sort of safe, secure and easy to drive out of, plus a little bit of room just for safety's sake. So the next thing we need to do is we need to pull out this rope. And as we mentioned earlier, we've got to have the engine running for the compressor because there's a pneumatic element to this winch, so the free spool will work. And
you have in-cab controls, is that right?
In-cab controls, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Before you do any recovery operations, before you start handling equipment, handling rope, especially if you've got steel wire rope, but even with synthetic, we always advise put on your gloves. Obviously protects your hands, especially if there are any burrs or anything caught in the winch line.
I like these thinner gloves are fine for the synthetic line.
Yeah.
Not so good for the steel wire rope, but with these you have a lot of dexterity. You know, the old ones felt like you were wearing huge oven mitts, and it was very hard to do any sort of detailed or accurate work with them. So these gloves are lighter gloves, protect your hands enough with dealing with synthetic line. They work really well.
Okay, Nick, so we're on a bit of a downhill slope here. Is there anything we should do to keep your truck where it is?
I think so. Look, we've got handy rocks around here, so all we need is to chuck one of these under the wheel here. Push that under.
Yep.
That's going to help. Of course, we're going to have somebody in the truck.
Yep.
And the handbrake's going to be on. They're going to be in neutral, manual gearbox.
Right.
And they're going to be on the foot brake as well. So the vehicle's not going to go anywhere, but there's nothing wrong with having a bit of extra security with a chock there.
Right. This is quite a light truck compared to the Troopy down there.
So, brought a kit here, and we've got some goodies in here. We've got a standard bow shackle, and we also have a soft shackle, which we could also use.
So what do you think advantages and disadvantages are of either one in this situation here? We've got a ring here, and we've got to go to a closed loop attachment point on the truck.
It's going to be, will that fit? That's the question.
That'll fit through there.
That'll fit through there nicely, yeah.
And this will go right onto there. So we could definitely use a bow shackle.
That looks like it works pretty well. Actually, it looks in here we could use either the soft shackle or the bow shackle. And I know a lot of folks these days really are looking at being able to keep any metal out of these recovery situations, which is really not a bad idea.
But Nick, I think we should show people how to use a soft shackle if they were going to rig up the same situation.
Yeah, here we go.
So let's just pull this one off. Just in case they only happen to have a soft shackle with them, it's always good to know how to rig them up. So I'll hand that to you.
Got it.
Okay, and so this is one of our super soft shackles. It's only got one loop in the end here, so we're just going to open it up like that. You've got to kind of look at how your soft shackles put together as well. Our super soft shackles only have one loop at the end. Some have two loops because the splice means there's a crossover right here. You always want to make sure you're going into the last loop on there. When you're storing the soft shackles, store them closed like that so you know exactly which loop the knot goes through. So just like you'd store a hard shackle with the pin through it, you store your soft shackles as a loop. All right, so now we're going to put this on. So we're going to open it up. There we go. Put this guy through We're gonna actually end up with a knot at the top. And we just pop it in like that. So, and the reason for doing it this way is you always want to have the knot on top of the widest point of your attachment point here. So if we were doing a recovery ring, you'd have the recovery ring right here. Put the loop, basically the loop end coming around here so that it attaches to the knot right there. So it's actually pulling on the knot directly flat like that. Instead of, you'll see a lot of people setting soft shackles up like this. So you've got a bend here, or if you put it on this end, actually in this case you do have some danger of that getting pulled through into the eye on the truck and actually maybe getting stuck or getting damaged there. So what we want to do is you always want to make sure that it is set just like that. And we're ready to go if we're going to use a soft shackle. All right, Nick, well, this looks really good here coming through the flat link. But what do you think about the attachment point to the Land Cruiser here?
Yeah, I'm thinking this hoop on the Land Cruiser is just a little bit too small. We've got quite a big turning radius there. And while, you know, this is the kind of thing that you might get away with, it's probably not the kind of thing you want to be doing. It's definitely not best practice. So I think what we'll do with that, Graham, is we'll go back to our original plan and we'll put that bow shackle in there instead.
I think that's a good idea. The danger, of course, you get here is that you can see that's really tight radius around there, and the fibers on the outside of the rope are obviously going a further distance than the fibers on the inside, and basically what it does when it pulls is it stretches the ones on the outside and puts a lot of strain on them. So you can actually start snapping the fibers on the outside of the rope there. All right, so we're going to go back to the bow shackle here, and we're going to re-rig it back onto the truck. So just drop it through the anchor point, and then we're going to drop this through the flat link. Now here's a. I was
going to ask you a question about that actually.
Yeah,
is there any sort of best practice way to put that pin? Do you put it in from the bottom or the top or the side? What do you?
You know, whenever you're dealing with small parts and things like that, and as we've often said, whenever this happens, in real life, it's going to be dark and raining, and you're going to be tired, and you know, having a miserable day because you're stuck, obviously. Always do things that make your life easier, right? And if you're going to take the pin and drop it in from the top here, and then I let go of it, it's not falling, it's not going anywhere, it's set right there, then I can just screw it, I don't have to hold it anywhere, and it just makes it a lot easier to work with. Also, if this is close to the ground, say the attachment point's down here and it's dragging on the ground, there's no danger of it rotating or tightening up or loosening the pin itself. You can imagine if I flip this over, well, you don't have to imagine because I'm going to show you. If you're going to rig it like this, now I'm sort of looking through there trying to see where the hole is. I'm naturally going to try and rotate it to try and do this. I'm just making my life a lot harder. If I happen to let go of it, it's fallen and gone away. So yeah, I mean, just in best practice, just to make your life easier, screw down so you don't screw up. And whenever you're tightening up a bow shackle, you always go up to just snug and then back it off a quarter turn. And the reason for that is if there's any load, rotational load on this rope as you're pulling, it can tighten up the pin to the point you can't get it off again. And there it is, set. Are we ready to winch?
Yeah, that looks good.
So now one thing we should mention, just everybody on the video here, is that this is now considered a live line, right? So we've got a line attached to the Defender, straight to the Land Cruiser, and if this Land Cruiser was to just sort of bail off down the hill unexpectedly, then the line's going to snap taut, and if you happen to be close to the line, or God forbid standing on top of it, or have it between your legs or something, you can get very badly damaged. So being a live line, it means at this point, don't step over the line. All right, I think we're all set, Nick.
That looks good, yeah. So one thing that's often overlooked when we're doing these kind of recoveries is that communication is actually key. So Graham and I have to have a quick little chat about what we're going to do here. We haven't even talked about hand signals and that kind of stuff.
That's true.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter what you do and what sort of hand signals you might want to use, as long as you agree that they mean the same things.
Right. As long as I understand what he's saying and he understands what I'm saying, we're okay.
So one thing that is worth doing here is going to be quite a straightforward recovery. The only thing we're really going to be doing is we're going to be winching in, and I think we're going to use the winch it in hand signal, yeah, which we'll be able to see. And the only other signal we're going to use, I would imagine, is stop. And we'll have a quick chat about what we're going to do. You know, I'm going to be sitting in the Defender. You're going to be sitting in the Land Cruiser.
Right.
We're going to take up the slack. We're going to just make sure we're happy with things once we've taken up the slack.
Yep.
And then from there we'll give it a nice thumbs up to make sure we're both okay and happy, good to go.
Right.
Then we'll start winching in, and we should just be able to recover you quite easily.
Okay. Am I going to be driving it all?
I think having a bit of drive assist here would be quite nice, actually. So very gentle driving as you come up.
We come up, yeah.
And I think we'll be in pretty good shape. We obviously want to try and avoid driving over the winch line. So
yes.
None of your race driver's right foot, if you don't mind. And
well, the thing about that is that red winch you have on there is very quick as it is. I might have trouble keeping up with it.
That's probably very true.
So I walked around the vehicle because obviously we don't want to have anybody crossing the winch line. That's something very important to do. Also, I'm going to be winched up and you never know what's going on, so always a good idea to put your seatbelt on. Winch line could break, the car could go off the side of a hill or something like that. Always best to have your seatbelt on. Sometimes can be difficult because if you're at a weird angle, sometimes the free spool on the seatbelt doesn't work and it locks up. But if you can, always do it.
So one thing we've got to watch on this pull is because we can't get the vehicles quite in a straight line. Graham's actually a little bit off to my right. You have to watch where the spooling of the line occurs. What's going to happen? It's going to happen on this side of the winch, of course the right side of the winch from the driver's perspective. Because he's off to the right, that line's going to come over here. Ideally, if we had a third person here, we could rope them into the situation. They could control the whole operation and watch how that's going on. Because this is quite a short pull, we're not too worried about that. But afterwards, let's have a look at this spool and see how that line's spooled on.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing a little drive assist while Nick's winching me in. So I'm going to start the car, put it in first, make sure the handbrake is off, and I'm going to hold the vehicle on the foot brake while we actually get ready to winch. All right, ready to go.
So what I'm going to do here, rather than take the slack out of the system all in one go, because I've got quite a fast winch, I'm just going to blip it in gently. What that will do is prevent a big shock load as the entire system goes taut. Both the vehicles will jump down on the suspension. There's a lot of energy in there. It's much better practice to look after the vehicles and look after the equipment, and so we'll just blip it in gently, and we'll do 4 or 5 of those just to take in that slack as gently as possible. See the thumbs up. I'm going to give them a little bit of winch in so we can see, do it out the window. Good old Graham, and we've got in-cab controls, so I'm just going to start by blipping in that winch. And it's quite a fast winch. So there we go, we're in tension now. You probably saw the vehicle move a little bit there. I saw Graham's vehicle move a little bit. So now that we're happy we've taken the slack out of the system, the anchor points look good, we're ready to recover Graham.
So I'm going to put the truck in first gear with clutch in, take the handbrake off, and I'm just going to be holding the car on the foot brake right now, and I'm going to give Nick the signal to start winching in.
That's it, looks like he's ready. So I'm going to give him the big winch in signal now while I'm standing on the brake. Again, foot brake, hand brake, in neutral, engine running. Here we go, Graham. And Graham should be driving. You can hear the winch working. And as I see all 4 wheels out of that, I can hear the winch, you know, going, it's not under as much load. I can bring him up, and apparently he's happy there. So I'm going to call that recovered. Now we've got Graham recovered, I'm happy with where he is, and most importantly, of course, he's given me the thumbs up. Typically just blip the winch out just to get a bit of slack into the system, and next thing I do is I operate the free spool, so now we can de-rig the system safely and at our leisure.
All right, now that we're out, just secure the truck. I'm going to leave it in gear, actually, handbrake on, and we'll go and de-rig the system. Cool. Well, thank you, Nick.
All right, Graham, looks like you're out.
It does look like that.
So I obviously winched out a bit to put a bit of slack in the system.
Sounds good.
The free spool's on as well, so if we need any more slack, should make it easy for us to de-rig.
Excellent.
And since we backed this off, as we said when we actually rigged it on, it's nice and loose, easy to take off. It's just a matter of taking off the bow shackle. There's your winch line, sir.
Thank you very much.
And I always put these back together and store them as one piece.
And it's great to keep them in your recovery kit. I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen folks driving around on the road with these things jingly jangling around like that. It's really not good practice because one is if this is on the rear of a truck and it decides to work itself loose, it's very exciting for the driver behind you, and they won't appreciate being hit by a bouncing bow shackle. The other thing is, of course, if you don't want them to be stolen, you have to knit them up very tight, then you can't take them off if you need to, and of course they can be stolen as well. So I actually prefer to look after my recovery kit, keep it in its bag and keep it securely locked away in the back of my truck.
Yeah, and that's why I always go in front.
So if we look at the winch, Graham, what I mentioned earlier has actually happened, and we weren't that far offset. As you can see, this side of the winch here has got no rope on it. Well, obviously it's got some rope on it, but it's all sort of piled up on this side of the spool. And that's because we just had that little bit of a right angle in there. It was a good thing it was quite a short pull, because obviously they were getting quite a lot of rope there and we're starting to worry about interference. We're not quite there yet, but we can't just leave the winch like this. We're going to have to respool that.
Right. That's why it's a good idea also to have somebody else watching the winching operation from the outside, right? They can watch how the rope's actually spooling onto the drum and stop us and get us to re-rig if they see this happening. So always good to have more eyes on the operation.
Absolutely. There you go.
There we go. So we're going to pull it all off. Okay, so we've got about 2 more feet of line to go in. And this is a really fast winch, and this is actually true of any winch that you're using. You don't want to risk getting your fingers caught between the flat link and the fair lead, or the hook and the fair lead, or anything like that. So you want to be very gentle in how you're going to actually handle this. So I'm going to just put my fingers on it like this, and then I'm just going to give Nick the signal to just do a tap at a time. Just bring the winch line in nice and slowly and nice and controlled. And then if something goes wrong, if he slips on the button or something like that, I can just let go of the winch and I don't follow it in and get myself trapped.
So Graham's just given me this signal, which means he's putting his fingers into the winch. So obviously that's quite a dangerous situation to be in. So not only am I going to have my hands well clear of any of those controls, I like to put them up here on top of the steering wheel near the dash, so Graham can see where my hands are, and it gives him a good deal of confidence that I'm not going to start playing around clicking buttons while he's busy sorting out the line on the winch spool.
And that's it.
Hey Graham, looks like we're out.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks for getting the troopy back on the trail.
No worries, anytime. So thanks for joining us, guys. That's a small taste of the kind of things that we do at training. You can find out more about that at 7poverland.com.
And please check out our social media channels, and we will catch you on the next video. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.